Good evening, and thank you so much for being part of Joy Asonye Live this beautiful evening here on KAFTAN TV. As usual, we'll be talking about some of the things you have been thinking about. We try to bring to fore some concerns you have, and today we'll be focusing on the President's MSME plan. Is it going to go like other economic plans that successive governments have pushed forward? Well, if you remember, President Bola Tinubu unveiled a comprehensive plan to stimulate economic growth and create a conducive business environment for entrepreneurs nationwide in his last live broadcast, really. The president proposed interventions aimed to alleviate the hardship citizens and businesses are facing while fostering sustainable development, especially now that the fuel subsidy regime has come to an end and Nigerians seem to be going through harrowing experiences. To do justice to this, right here is my guest. It is Mr. Emeka Ojih. Mr. Emeka Ojih is a finance and development strategist. Thank you so much for being part of the program, Mr. Emeka Ojih.
Thank you, Joy.
Right.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here. But Nigerians are skeptical. We've heard this before. Huge economic intervention plans by the government to stimulate, energize. We've heard all sorts of words used just to talk about this. Are you optimistic about this plan, or you're just like many Nigerians who say, here we go again?
Thank you very much, Joy. Let me put it as simply as I can. Here we go again.
Oh.
It's as with every plan, the issue is in implementation. Is it going to be implemented? Is it going to be implemented right? No matter how good a plan is, no matter how good an intervention, a policy is, if the implementation goes wrong, or if the implementation is not designed to actually be implemented, then it's a no-brainer that it is not going to deliver the goods that it is supposed to deliver. So if you ask me very directly and I answer very seriously, I would say that the plan is only good as its execution. You know, the strategy, it's only good as its implementation. No matter how beautiful a strategy is, no matter how grand a strategy is, if it is not implemented, then it's of no use. Now we ask ourselves, will this be implemented? That is the question. Will it be implemented? There are a few things that we need to consider when we're asking that question. Number one is we need to consider antecedents. You know, the federal government, in the past, when they have said they would implement, have they implemented, especially things or policies around MSMEs and economic reforms and helping, or rather pro-poor policies? When they say they will implement, have they implemented? The answer is a relative no, in the sense that over the past many years, the pro-poor policies, implementation of pro-poor policies and the MSME development plans have not gone as planned. We all see NISRAL. There was something called NISRAL. There was an intervention called NISRAL. We all know the stories we heard about around NISRAL. NISRAL was largely a political patronage platform. We all hear about trader money. Trader money was, you know, kind of more or less.
I remember economic experts from day one talking about trader money, screaming that this is not sustainable and it cannot work in energizing that sector if indeed that was the plan.
So yes, I like how you say if indeed that was the plan, which means you even question the intention. And then we go back to intention. What is the intention of those doing this? Do they want to, excuse my language, do they want to share money to their constituents? If they want to share money to their constituents, couldn't they find other means of doing that? Do they have to craft it as pro-poor policies or strategies? Do they have to craft it as MSME development plans? Find ways to share money to your constituencies if that is what you want to do. But can you spare us? And when you say you want to deliver an MSME development plan, when you say you want to deliver pro-poor strategies, that's a tongue twister.
I know.
When you say you want to deliver pro-poor strategies, can we do that? We have 134, I think, million people living in multidimensional poverty. That is the highest number of people living in multidimensional poverty in a given space called a country. It's not something that you want to. It's not something that you want to publicize. It's not something that you should be proud about. That is actually a very damning
Statistics.
stats. Very, very damning. And then while this is happening, we are now faced with, fuel subsidy removal, which to all intents and purposes, it's an essential, in my opinion, it's an essential step. It is something that we are supposed to do. But it comes with negative baggage, especially on the economy, inflation, and the poor people bear the brunt. So 134 million people already in multidimensional poverty. Now you're slamming the negative effects of subsidy removal on them again. I think the World Bank estimates that this year alone, that about 13 million people, this year alone, that about 13 million people will enter into multidimensional poverty. Add that to your 134, and you're looking at 33, and you're looking at 140 something million people. This is just 1 year. Something has to give. It's not workable, Joy. It's not workable. So will they implement? I hope they do. Implementation is a couple of steps, or is a few steps. Number one is intention. Are you intentioned to implement? When you designed the project, did you design it as a project to actually benefit the poor, or did you just design it as one of those, money for the boys, as they call it, political patronage? If you designed it like that and you're masquerading it and disguising it as a pro-poor strategy or as an MSME development strategy, then that's it. It's not going to get implemented.
Right.
So the first step is intention. Now, the second step is, if you pass the intention test, if you're actually well-intentioned and believe that you want to and believe that, and everybody believes that you are intentioned to deliver this, then we then work out strategies for delivery. How will that work? So that's where you now start to find things like, what's your criteria for picking the organizations or the SMEs that you're going to invest in? Which sectors are you going to concentrate on? How do you pick the SMEs in that sector that would hit the inflection points and trigger? Because there are points that you will hit. There are points that you hit in a value chain, or and then you trigger. You trigger growth that you wouldn't trigger if you hit it at another point.
Right.
So you need to identify, assuming your intention is in place, you need to identify the critical sectors and industries to hit. I would say the high growth industries are very critical. The high growth industries, in my opinion, are industries like technology, sports, the creatives, franchising, outsourcing, agro processing. Those are the high growth areas.
Industries, right?
Right. There's a few more of them. Those are the high growth areas. Face those high growth areas. Yeah. Then identify in each high growth area, identify up and down the value chain, identify particular areas that if you hit, they can become catalysts for engendering,
the kind of growth you project.
Yes, the kind of growth that you want. And then, of course, when potential partners, whether they be international development partners or they be local partners like companies that are engaged and involved in CSR, when they see that you are well intentioned and that you are going to the right sectors and that you are going to the right points on the in the value chain and that you are actually intentioned to deliver, when they see that, then they will partner with you. They will bring their technical assistance. They will bring their financial assistance. They will bring their networks to help you to achieve that which you have set out to achieve. So these things are, these things require, in the world of finance, everything is about confidence. Somebody has to be confident in you and in what you're doing to be able to
trust
partner with you. It's all about social capital.
Now, Nigerian MSMEs have several challenges. I don't know if we have the time to mention or highlight them all out here. However, I've also heard some experts say maybe putting monies and giving out these loans or whatever they may be is not the right way. Maybe you should look inwards as to those structures that need to be, infrastructures rather, that needs to be fixed first. Is that your take as well?
Well, there are various areas of intervention. I would say, for instance, that the biggest problem of MSMEs in Nigeria is not finance, like a lot of people will think. It's not finance. I would say that it is capacity. We lack the capacity to deliver MSMEs. So capacity means that we need to go back to link education to industry, right? That is building capacity. That is one way to build capacity. There's primarily two ways to build capacity. Yeah, you are either building capacity directly, so people need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Then you train them to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. That is building capacity directly. So you are either building capacity directly, or you are removing the things that require high capacity. You're migrating them to somewhere else where others can do it. So one way, you have 1, 2, 3 things to do. You build the capacity of people to do those 1, 2, 3, 4 things. The second way is you have 1, 2, 3, 4 things to do. You realize that 1 and 3 and 4 are things that regular people, let's call them regular people without capacity, can do. So you give them 1, 3, and 4 to do. Then you take 2 and you migrate it to somewhere else.
Right.
Where people that then have the right capacity
for it can
deliver that. Those are the two ways to build capacity. There's no other way to build capacity. So I would say that in our MSME space in Nigeria, the primary thing that is hampering the growth of MSMEs is a lack of capacity. We need to deal with that. We need to fix our TVE system, which is Technical and Vocational Education System. NBET, Nigeria Board for MBTE, Nigeria Board for Technical Education.
Whatever happened, I hate to digress, but whatever happened to our technical schools?
Well, that's a question that we should reserve for MBTE to answer, because they are the body that are supposed to oversee our technical schools. And we have, if I remember correctly, I may be wrong, but I think we have a few hundreds of them. I think they're up to 500. I'm not sure, I have to look at my numbers again. Yeah. And there are our technical schools, there are our, agricultural schools, there are our special schools. There's a lot of them across the country. And MBTE, National Board for Technical Education, has the mandate, has the authority to oversee them, determine their curriculum, and determine how they function. MBTE has not done very well, just generally speaking about their activities and about their productivity. 6334 system was a system that we built some time back. That also did not do very well. So we need to link industry to education. That is one basic thing we need to do. That's one. Capacity building. Second thing we need to do is we need to improve our ease of doing business. Ease of doing business. Doing business in Nigeria can be very difficult. I mean, you want to register a domain name online, it takes you all of 5 seconds, but you want to register a company with CAC and you start hearing about come back tomorrow, come back next tomorrow. I mean, to even search to see if the name you want
has not been taken.
Available.
Right.
It takes you hours, days at times to do that. Whereas you can check billions. You can search through billions of domain names online in seconds, and you can know if the name you want to do business with is available. Why can't you do it with how many? I mean, I'm sure we do not have up to 60, or let's even stretch 100 million businesses registered in Nigeria. But we have hundreds of billions of domain names registered, and you can search through that in seconds. Why can't you search through our less than 100 million business names in Nigeria in seconds as well? The technology exists. The technology is not expensive. Why can't we do that? I will tell you why we can't do that. Intention. It's back to intention again. Some people profit from this system.
The failure of it.
Yes.
Even though the country is bleeding.
Yes. Some people profit from this system. So it is profitable for those people to keep this system working, to keep this system in place. And that's what then happens. They keep it in place so that they can benefit from it. But if we need to fix it, and I think we need to fix it, because I believe that our fastest way out of the pit that we currently are in, our fastest way is MSMEs. MSMEs account for 50% of our GDP, about 90% of all employment, and about 97% of all businesses. If you can get MSMEs right, you can get your economy right, right? So if we're going to fix MSMEs, if we're going to encourage people to get into business, and if we're going to help people that get into business to do well in business, there are certain things that must be in place. We must ensure that it is relatively easy, that things that should be easy to do are executed easily. You cannot want to register a company,
and it takes you months.
And it takes you weeks. It doesn't make sense. It should take you hours, for instance. Look at the other regulators. Look at NAFDAC, which is a regulator in the food and drug space. You know, NAFDAC has its peculiar operational issues. You know, NAFDAC is more a roadblock than a partner in business. So those people need to adjust how they approach MSMEs. Then the government needs to streamline taxation and give tax breaks when they can. And I would encourage them, particularly in an economy like this. In an economy like this, you need to Encourage production. What is a way to encourage production? Encourage those responsible for half of your GDP and 90% of your employment and 97% of your businesses. Encourage them to keep producing. How do you encourage them to keep producing? Well, one way is to reduce their taxation. Streamline their taxation. Make sure that they don't go through multiple taxation. Make sure that they're not taxed at the federal, state, local, and then everybody's trying to get a piece of them, which is exactly what is happening now. If MSMEs tell you what they're going through, it's heartbreaking. Everybody wants a piece of them. So you set up a business and you have 50 employees and everybody thinks, agents, every government agency wants a piece of you. This should be streamlined. There should be specific, especially for MSMEs, there should be specific taxes. Or we say we're giving them a tax break for the next 1 year, for the next 2 years, whatever it is. And then the next thing is finance. Again, I go back to government. Government development financial institutions. There are things you call development. There are institutions you call development financial institutions. The three main development financial institutions in Nigeria: Development Bank of Nigeria, Bank of Industry, Nexim. Generally speaking, they haven't done very well. They could do better. Between DBN, Development Bank of Nigeria, and Bank of Industry, a lot of what they do is, collect money. They are risk averse. Right. Yeah, they are risk averse. They collect money and they put these monies in fixed deposits or they give them to banks. And then banks turn around and lend them to SMEs for, ridiculous rates. So you're looking at times close to 30% per annum. And MSMEs should be heading towards single-digit interest rates if you really want them to be productive and to help your economy. You should be heading towards single-digit interest rates. So
are there risks in loaning to MSMEs?
Of course, there are risks. There are risks. There are always
I ask
risks.
Because this is the justification the banks will give to give the 30% interest rate, or sometimes double-digit interest rate rather.
If you happen to invite me again, it would be nice if you also invite a banker so that I can then debate him or her, and because I have encountered a lot of that. But if MSMEs are taken as a developmental imperative, right, then you would approach them a different way. Let me give you an example. So let's use the Development Bank of Nigeria, or even the Bank of Industry. They access these monies. Yeah? They access these monies. A lot of the times, they access these monies at very low single digits.
Right.
Rates. Very, very low. You're talking something like 2%, thereabout. At times, those are the type of figures they get. Now, if you're accessing monies at 2%, how does that 2%, by what process does that 2% migrate to, let's say, 25%? By what process? What risk are you trying to cover or to bear? Okay, and then this now brings to question the next point. Institutions of government should work to de-risk the MSME space. There are ways to do that. For instance, we do not have a comprehensive database of MSMEs in Nigeria. Complete with who they are, what they work on, credit rating, stuff like that. We don't have that. We don't have identity management, proper identity management systems, right? But these are things that can be fixed. And even if they're not there, there are ways, there are strategies by which this can be overcome. Okay, so for instance, I have deployed money for CSR monies and grant monies for a lot of international development organizations and a lot of corporations worldwide. When you encounter a space where there is relative high risk, but because it's a development
imperative
thing that you need to execute,
right,
you have to find other means. You have to
de-risk it.
Yes, thank you. You have to find other means to de-risk that whole engagement and that whole enterprise and that whole initiative. Okay, so one of the things you could do, so I would give you a few of the things that I've done in the past. So one is the cooperative system. Yeah, the cooperative system. The cooperative system is a de-risking method or methodology, right? So you were saying, okay, so I'm going to give money. I'm not going to give money to one person. I'm going to give money to 10 people. I'm going to give money to 10 organizations or 10 institutions, and 10 of you
have to join a cooperative.
Are responsible for each other.
Right.
So you're watching me, I'm watching you, exactly. You're watching person 3, everybody's watching each other, and so that way so even when, let's say we're 10 and person 7 wants to go astray, the other people, not the lender, not the money giver, the other people go drag him or her back.
Not on our watch.
Exactly. Because if you go astray, you're going to affect all of us.
Right.
Right? So you need to find means to spread, to democratize the responsibility for managing risk. Right? You need to democratize it. And there are ways to do that. Okay, so that's one way. Another way is to build guarantees. Is to build guarantees. There are institutions. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know if to use the word sad that we haven't been utilizing certain types of institutions in Nigeria. There are institutions that provide insurance. There are institutions that provide insurance for investments like this. They provide insurance. Okay, so you're going to do this. They provide, and they now take on the responsibility of de-risking.
Exactly. But you have to hold that thought. We have gone half hour into the conversation, and it's time to go for a short break. We'll be back after this short break. We still have Mr. Emeka Ojih, Finance and Development Strategist, with us talking about the MSME plan of Nigeria. We'll be right back. This is still Joy Asonye Live. Welcome back from that. We still have Emeka Ojih, Watson MBA, MSME specialist. He's a finance and development strategist, former assistant country director, USADF. USADF is the only U.S. government agency focused on MSME's development in Africa. He's been telling us how the president can really rejig or energize the MSME sector in Nigeria. I mean, I read your 10 commandments, your 10 commandments when it comes to the MSMEs rejigging or development in Nigeria. You said fixing Nigeria's economy with simple 10 commandments. One of it caught my attention. You said create a platform or framework for effective coordination of different MSME interventions from different government agencies, multilaterals, philanthropies, NGOs, and DFIs. That's interesting. However, we've talked about intentions over and over. It seems like that's the bedrock of getting anything really done. If you need to have a staircase conversation with the president, especially now that he doesn't, the cabinet is still forming, portfolios have not been attached to ministers just yet. what would that conversation entail?
Okay. Yes, thank you for that. You have hit the nail where the nail is supposed to be hit, and that is intention. Intention is everything. Subtract intention from execution, and execution is useless. I mean, if the intention is wrong, execution can never occur. Execution is DOA, dead on arrival. So we are assuming the right intention. It is an assumption. The right intention can only be confirmed in the bearer's mind. And given that we are not in government's mind, we do not know what they have in mind. But there are ways to decipher if someone is well-intentioned. So, for instance, if you want to execute a project and you put someone who everyone knows cannot execute that project, either because the person has been in such positions before and things have gotten missing. So if there's 100 naira to give out, 90 of those nairas got missing. And then you now put that same person in another similar project, we already know. That is proof of your intention.
Right.
That is proof.
That's the antecedent part.
Yes, that's the proof that you're ill-intentioned. So, if there are obvious ways to deliver something. So let's say you want to deliver monies to people, and the people you're looking at, monies can be delivered to them electronically. Your segment, your market segment, or your catchment area, monies can be delivered to them electronically, but you choose, for whatever reason, to deliver it physically. It's already why, and the why could only be that you are not well-intentioned. So you hope that delivering it physically creates an avenue to do whatever it is that your real intention is. Okay, so let's get that sorted out. Okay, that intention is key. But after you were done with intention, how then do you gather round and deliver these things? There are multiple government agencies under multiple ministries working in the MSMES space. There are impact funds in Nigeria working in the MSME space, CSR funds from private sector, large private sector organizations. There are philanthropies working in the MSME space. There are development finance institutions, multilateral agencies, INGOs. All of them are working, and everybody has his own 2-year plan or 3-year plan or 5-year plan or annual plan, and they're all executing. A lot of the time you find overlaps. A lot of the time you find redundancies. A lot of the time, because nobody's watching, there are gaps that nobody has identified. So what is really needed is a coordinating body that builds out a framework where everybody fits in. So 17 government agencies, let's say, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. 7 DFIs, 31 INGOs, 9 philanthropies. We all come together and we craft a master plan.
Right.
Or what did Americans call it after the Second World War? A Marshall Plan. It was actually named after a guy called Marshall. You craft a Marshall Plan that has everybody playing his own pace, and there are less redundancies and there are less gaps, and then there's coordination so that all the cross-cutting issues are maximized. But then again, like you rightly mentioned in your question, it comes from a position of intention. But I must say, all the countries that I can remember that have gone through extreme growth in the last many years. You might want to name Vietnam, you might want to name China, South Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. Where are they? All those countries, they had one thing in common. They went through the MSME space. They had another thing in common. They had people coordinating these cross-cutting issues and ensuring that there's high-level coordination of everyone involved in that space. Those are two things that they had in common, and they were then able to deliver. There's so many moving pieces that you cannot allow those moving pieces to move on their own.
This is the public sector not allowing now.
Yes, this is the public sector. But even the public sector, again, this comes back to intention, because if you have the right intention, then you build that social capital with which you can reach out to the private sector, and you reach out to the citizen sector, and you reach out to the international development world. And they will come to the table with you to build a framework to deliver this. But they have to believe in you, right? They have to believe that you're well-intentioned. If they don't believe that you're well-intentioned, they will not waste their time sitting on the table with you, trying to decipher and to decode or to craft a strategy that they know will not be implemented, or that they will know that you're going to building loopholes which you want to exploit at a later date. So, primary thing is you need to be well-intentioned, and then you need to bring everybody to the table and create a platform where everyone who is a contributor in that space, in the MSME space, gets involved in. MSMEs account for only about 6 to 7% of our exports in Nigeria. Similar economies as ours, MSMEs count for minimum a quarter. 25%. We're at 6%. We need to declare a state of emergency on MSMEs. And one of the mandates we need to deliver to whoever, or whichever people are going to deliver that, is ramp up the export capacity of MSMEs from 6% to a minimum 15% in the next, let's say, 2-3 years.
And is achievable?
Very achievable. If you have the right people
with intention
and you have the right political will. It's two things. It's two things. It's not 3, it's not 4, it's not 5 things. It's the right political will and it's the right people. Those two things in place, every other thing will be delivered.
Okay, I don't know if this question will make you uncomfortable, but you've seen the president. He seems to have the good intentions. Do you think he has that political will and the right people? You've also, I'm sure, gone through his ministers.
I don't know why you chose to put words into my mouth.
I apologize.
By saying he seems to have the right intentions. I didn't say that.
Well, you haven't, but he's been on and on with injecting, energizing, and infusing monies into the MSME sector.
You know, a wise man once said, he said, the proof of faith is in pursuit. The proof of faith, F-A-I-T-H, the proof of faith is in pursuit. So you say, I believe this. Right? I believe this. If you believe this, then you're going to move towards it. If you believe that this door is open and you need to leave this place, then you're going to move towards the door.
Right.
Right? So, we are watching Mr. President. We are giving him the benefit of doubt. What is the benefit of doubt that we're giving him? The benefit of doubt that we're giving him is that it's the first time he's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We cannot blame him for President Buhari's shortcomings, even though they are from the same political party.
Right.
We cannot blame him for we really cannot blame him for the last 8 years. So we need to give him that benefit of a doubt. So you are here now. We will see by your next actions if you're well-intentioned. It's as simple as that. We will see by your next actions if you're well-intentioned. What are some of the actions we will see and we know you are not well-intentioned? One of the actions we will see and we know you are not well-intentioned is, again, if you develop pro-poor policies and initiatives like the 125 billion he says he's going to give to MSMEs, or the 75 billion he says he's going to give to industries, whatever that means, or the 50 billion or so he says he's going to give to nano industries. Now, let's watch two things. Let's watch the people that mandate those initiatives. That's one. And then the second thing is, let's watch the structures that they bring to deploy those. If those are wrong, then the president is not well-intentioned.
But speaking
if those are right, then we can believe in him. We can believe that he actually then wants to deliver. I hope he wants to deliver. I hope that the latter is the fact. I hope that Mr. President understands that getting MSMEs right is getting Nigeria's economy right. And that Nigeria's economy is in a place where if something drastic is not done, it's going to take all of us down.
Right. You are asking for the president to call out a state of emergency on the MSME sector. However, he just did that for the food insecurity sector. And are you happy with the pace?
What did he do?
Well, he announced the food insecurity, a state of emergency on food insecurity. And after that, nothing much has been done. So when you say you want the president to declare a state of emergency on the MSME sector with this pace, is it something you would still want to, is this the same lane you would still like to tow? Well,
again, we come to what I've been talking about, intention and implementation. Right? You can talk the good talk. You know, I took a little exception to where I said you put words in my mouth, right? I took a little exception to that. And that was because the President Tinubu, has not, so far, he has not executed. He has spoken, but he has not executed anything in the MSME space or in pro-policy spaces that suggest that it is not business as usual. I hope that it will not be business as usual. So my saying he needs to declare a state of emergency on the MSME sector is hoping that it is a true state of emergency that will be declared on that sector.
Not the similar one on food insecurity.
Well, I don't know what he has done in that space, which is what I keep asking you. I've heard some pronouncement.
I've heard
release
some
grains. Release grains.
Fertilizers.
Fertilizers. Well, I don't know what's if they're doing something about it. They have not given it publicity because I've not heard. Or I don't know if other people have heard. But I am hoping that that Mr. President can isolate certain sectors, isolate them and proof them, shield them.
Whatever do you mean by that?
Okay, I'm going to use an example that I like using, which I've used before today actually. A lot of people, there are schools of thought that believe that Fashola did well as governor of Lagos State because Governor Tinubu provided him with political cover, right?
Okay.
And so, because he had political cover, he didn't have to deal with certain things. So he faced the actual work of governing, and he did well as a Lagos governor. That's what some school of thought say. And then they now say he didn't do well as a minister of Power, Housing and Works. He didn't do well as a minister because he didn't have that type of political cover. So what I'm saying is there are critical sectors that need that type of political cover. You give them that type of political cover, so you ring fence them, you safeguard them.
Against what?
Against political marauders, against politicians wanting to rob our commonwealth and misdirect initiatives that are pro-poor, right? We need to ring fence those areas so that they can deliver. And those areas, I would say, there are about 5 of them. It's power, education, health, MSMEs, digital economy. If we can ring fence these 5 areas, if we can give them cover, if the president, and only the president can do that, give them cover, put the right people there, put execution templates in place, slap on monitoring and evaluation, proper monitoring and evaluation, so that there are feedbacks, what's going right, what's going wrong. If those 5 spaces can deliver in Nigeria, we might yet come out of this pit that we are currently in.
Okay, so before I let you go, you're a citizen of Nigeria, and I'm sure you've seen the dire situation of the MSMEs. Have you written to the president with these beautiful, noble plans that you keep reeling out?
Have I written to him?
Yes, just to, in case his focus is not there, to get him to focus on these very important sectors, especially.
You're putting me on the spot. I like that. I have not written to him. I have not written to him. I do not believe that. I may be wrong, but I do not believe that. I do not believe that writing to him is an effective way of getting to him. I actually believe that perhaps putting out these ideas in the public space, and I've been doing a lot of that. I'm here speaking to you today, trying to get these ideas out in the public space. I am writing articles in newspapers and trying to get these ideas into the public space. It's for the ideas to be implemented. Right. I really don't care much who implements them, but if they're implemented and if they're implemented well, these are ideas that I think can help Nigeria get quickly out of where we currently are. Like I said, it is not rocket science. It is not rocket science. And
even rocket science have been figured out.
Thank you. I like that. It is not rocket science to take our current MSMEs currently do 6% export. It's not rocket science to take it from 6% to 15%. It's not rocket science. There are markets out there. There are markets out there. I will give you one particular example.
Okay, we don't have much time, so...
Just one very quick example. In 2005, 2006, right, I was running a U.S. government agency, USADF, which you had mentioned. We had largely an agreement in principle with the U.S. military to supply them military boots. So the U.S. Marines, the U.S. Army, supply them military boots under the AGOA platform, if we could meet quality from Nigeria. You know, I went to Abia State, and I started to put that together, right, to meet.
That's standard.
Yes. But things like that require government partnership. Things like that require government partnership. State government, federal government. So there needs to be some political will. There wasn't enough political will then. I was working for the U.S. government. I had U.S. government funds in the millions of dollars to throw into that particular project. But the way things are currently structured, or were structured then, and even up to now, to deliver a project on the scale that we wanted to deliver it in, we needed government collaboration and government cooperation. We didn't get it.
Okay, thank you so much, Emeka Ojih, Finance and Development Strategist. Thank you for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's always wonderful to have a conversation with you. The passion is undeniable.
Thank you.
So this is where we draw the curtains on Joy Asonye Live. We'll be back tomorrow with so much more. Do have a wonderful evening.